First, let us build an Apex class. We are going with the developer console. Now, we are trying to create an Apex class here. If you are practicing or opening. We have an Apex class, let us say first one, Apex example 1. Now, if you want any Apex class to be used in the VF page, if you want any Apex class to be used in the VF page, that Apex class has to be a public or a global. If you want any Apex class to be used in the VF page, that Apex class has to be a public or a global. Now we are going with file. Look at this. How do you refer to Apex class in the VF page? If you want to refer to SA object, what we have done? Standard controller equal to the SA object. Similarly, if you want to refer to an Apex class in the VF page, we have to define controller. Controller equal to Apex example 1. Control equal to Apex example 1. If you want any Apex class to be used in the VF page, we have to define that Apex class as a controller. Right. We have got it. Fine. The class has to be what? Either a public or a global. Now, if you are trying to use any Apex class within the VF page, that Apex class may or may not have a constructor. In case if there is any constructor, it should not have any parameters in it. If you want to call any Apex class within the VF page, that Apex class may or may not have a constructor. And if you are defining a constructor, it should have no parameters in it. Suppose I have not given any constructor. If you are not giving any constructor, then system will create a dummy constructor. If you don't create any constructor, system will create a dummy constructor. So what is the dummy constructor? It will be like this. This is the dummy constructor what system will create. No, if I am creating any constructor in the class, if I am creating any constructor in the class, then the system will not create any dummy constructor. But if you want to use Apex class within the Visual Force page, it should have constructor without parameters or no constructor. You don't define any constructor, it's okay. But if you define any constructor, there should be a constructor without any parameters. If you don't define any constructor without parameters and try to use that class within the VF page, it will throw error message. Let us see. What was it? Unknown constructor. What it is expecting? It is expecting constructor without parameters. But you define constructor with a parameter. Because if you are trying to use Apex class within the Visual Force page, that Visual Force page is expecting a constructor without parameters. You can have multiple constructors, but there should be constructor without parameters. Otherwise, it will throw error message. What I was doing here. So then I was supposed to go without. So next. You want to use any variable. If you want to use any variable, it has to be public or global. Any data members of the class, any data members of the class, any data members of the class, any data members of the class which you want to use within the VF page, any data members of the class which you want to use in the VF page, they have to be with a public, they should be a public or a global. If you want to use any data members in the VF page, they has to be what? Public or global. First point. Second one, every variable should have set and get. Any variable that you are trying to use within the VF page, that variable should have getter and setter methods. That variable should have getter and setter methods. So I am giving a public string name floor bracket set is semicolon. I will explain what it is. Public string. Any variable you are trying to access. Any variable which you are trying to access. Any variable that you are trying to access in a VF page, they should have set and get methods. They should have what? Set and get methods. Any variable that you are trying to access within the VF page, that variable should have set and get. That variable should have set and get. Now what was that? This okay. Now let us go back to the P. We want to print it. Any data that you want to refer from the Apex class. Any data that you want to refer from the Apex class, the data should have formula expression. What was that? Name and branch. I will give you. You are getting it? Name equal to Sadish Mela, branch equal to. So what does it mean? Where are these values assigned? Within the constructor. So when the page is loading, automatically constructor is running. If constructor is not running, the values will not be assigned. So whenever you are loading a VF page, at the back end, the constructor is running first. After the constructor is executed, the values in the page are printed. Because when you invoke any Visual Force page, it is going to run the constructor of the class first, then it is going to load the data in the page. So first run the constructor, then load the page. Are you clear about the format? Okay. So if you want to use any data of the Apex class in the VF page, you are supposed to go with the set and get. What is this set and get? Let me give. Now we have a page. We give name. We have a class. Public class example. Now I enter the name. The name what I entered here, this name should be saved to whatever the value I am entering in the page. The value what I am entering in the page, I want to save this value to a variable. The value what I am entering in the page, the value should be saved to a variable. So what is the variable? So I'm giving error. Now, taking the data from the VF page, saving the value to a variable is called setter. Set method. What is the purpose of set method? Take the data from the VF, save the value to a variable. So what is the purpose of setter method? Reading the value of the elements from the VF page, saving those values to the variable of fx class is called setter method. It's called setter method. Now the value what is available in the page. Now here we have the value what is available in the class. If you want to take that value, display that value in the VF page, it is called getter. Getter means what? Get the value from the variable, save that value to a Visual Force page. Getting the value from an fx class, saving the value to a variable is called getter. Getting the value from a variable, giving the value to a VF is called getter. Setter is what? Taking the data from VF, saving them in fx class, which is called setter. Getter means taking the value from fx class, giving the value to VF, which is called getter. Now suppose if I say name, when you are using a variable called name, internally what is it? Get name. If I am using salary, internally what it is calling? Suppose if I am entering any data, internally is what? Are you getting my point here? So setter and getter is used to read the data or put the data to the fx. So what was that called? Setter methods and getter methods. I hope you are clear. So what is the purpose of setter method? This will read the data from fx class. So this page and save the value to example. We have a name. We have a name called string name. Then we have public void internally this is the meaning. When it is setter, internally it is going to be like this. Internally this is this dot is equal to h. This is how equation. So this is what setter method. What is the purpose of getter method now? Now setter is complete. Getter. Getter method. What is the getter method? This method will be used. This method will be used to read the data from fx class and display it. So it's a getter. public is a vehicle. Getter and setter. So instead of writing all these getter and setter, simply what we are doing? Set a semicolon, get semicolon, system will take care. System will take care. I hope you are clear. Instead of giving a setter and getter, simply write set a semicolon, get semicolon, system will take care. Now what was this VF page? The VF page. What is the purpose of controller? If you want to refer to any Apex class in the VF page, if you want to refer to any Apex class in the VF page, this will, then we define the Apex class as, we define the Apex class as, no, Apex class should be a public or then next. Apex class should have no constructor or constructor with zero values. Then next point. When we load, when the VF page first constructor will run, then the page this is how we have given the basic structure of referring to the Apex class within the VF page. Everyone has got this point? Am I clear with this? Clear for everyone? Okay. Let us do one example. So, create an Apex class student. Create an Apex class student with a name, fee, for, assign the values using constructor. Display the values in the VF page. Create a class student with the name, fee, phone number as data members and assign the values using constructor and print the values in the VF page. Create a class student with the name, fees, phone as data members. Assign the values using constructor. Display the values in the VF page. Start doing this example, everyone. Let us build that. We created a student class with the data members. Set semicolon, get semicolon. Set semicolon, get semicolon. Then I have given fee, public decimal fee. Then you have defined a constructor. So name, phone, fee. Name, phone, fee. We are giving the data. Name, phone, fee. Then I'm giving it. Apex example. Then we are trying to give name. This is how we have created. So I will preview. Red box. We are referring to the data. This is how we are referring to the data. I hope I am clear with this. Referring to the Apex class within a VF page. Now we want to invoke some methods. We want to invoke some methods. So how to define a method and how to invoke the method within the VF page. So let us look at the requirement. Let us look at the requirement. My requirement is we give VF page. Value. A value, B value. Then I have a couple of methods here. Add, multiply, reset. This is how I do it. Now, I want to, when I click on the add, addition of numbers, multiplication of numbers, reset means nullify all the values. Set all the values as null. But the problem is, how many variables are required in the Apex class? So, whatever the data that you are entering in this box, that should be stored to a variable, where I am giving value equal to a value. What is this? Referring to a variable called a value. So, whatever the value I entered here, that is saved to a value. I told whatever the value that you are entering here, right. How many methods I require? I require a method. What is the method? Method is also referred with the formula expression only. How we refer? Add. What is that add? Is a method. Multiply. I'm giving a one more method. Method is also referred as what? Formula expression only. Multiply. One more method. Reset. This is how we go. Add, multiply, reset. So what is that? Class with 3 variables and 3 methods. Class with 3 variables and 3 methods. Now we are supposed to create the 3 variables with 3 methods. Let us start doing this. Go for the public teaser, public teaser. Then I give public void. When is a public void add? Then we have public void add, public void public void. Now we have taken A value, B value, result. A value, B value, result. So I have created 3 variables with 3 methods. 3 variables with 3 methods. Fine. Let us do this one. How to create a Visual Force page. Now listen to the format. How do you refer to the Apex class? Listen to the program. People are not writing the programs. Control equal to Apex example. Now I want to create a VF page, Apex form. I was supposed to create Apex. Giving it Apex page block. Within the page block section, Apex page block section item. Within the section item, we have output label value equal to. Then I'm giving input text value equal to. How you refer? So whatever the value I enter in this box, that is saved to. Similarly, I require one more for page block. Value equal to the same story I have to repeat for A value, B value, and result. Now how many columns you want? Number of columns are 1. Now I'm saying you want a buttons here. How do you create a buttons? Apex page block buttons. Then location. You want to give it on top. Okay, top. Then what you are supposed to give? Apex command button value equal to add. Action equal to. When you click on the button, what is the action? Add. Now do you want to refresh entire page? Only result is changing, right? So why should I load the entire page? I can give enter command button value equal to action render this is how we create ID equal to P. So what is that? Created a page with 3 buttons. Now this is the basic structure what I have given. Right. We are performing. Right, boss. So I am not loading the entire page. I am not loading the entire page. I am only loading the page block. I am not loading the entire page. I am only loading the page block. Are you clear about this format? Basic section. Whatever the value that we entered here, that is saved to A value. This is saved to B value. When you click on add, it is setting the C value. This one. I hope I am clear with this format. People followed, right? So how do you invoke a method in the VF page? It is in the formula. We have seen previous example with action equal to page. You are getting what? Action equal to add. What is the add? Add is the name of the method. Add is the name of the method. Right. When I say A value, what it is calling? setter method of a value, getter method of a value. I hope I'm clear. Clear for everyone? Let us do one or two basic examples. Everyone followed? Right. Let us do a couple of basic examples. Now, let me give you. Anyone has any queries on that? Everyone is comfortable with this code? Right? We have done a couple of examples on page block section item. Why did you take page block section item? Why did you take page block section item? Because two elements, label and input text. I have a label, I have input text. Two elements are there in a single column. So I was supposed to go with the page block section item. Right. So let us build this example. My example is then I have calculate and reach. So when I enter the amount, so you know the rate of interest formula, right? I'll also write the formula. So now you're supposed to, I'm going to enter the amount, years and rate. You're supposed to calculate the interest and print it. I'll give amount, years, rate. You're supposed to print interest value. When you click on reset, everything should be deleted. When you click on reset, everything should be deleted. When you click on reset, everything should be deleted. Let's start implementing this. Then I was supposed to create public small. To be always set followed by get. Set followed by get. Public decimal. Public void calculate. So I have created this calculation of interest. Then I have the second method which is called reset. I am resetting the data. We had public void what I'm doing here. Apex example. Then we're giving Apex form. The same story, right? Was that Apex page block interest calculator? Apex page block buttons location equal to top because I'm printing the buttons only on the top. Then I have Apex command button. Equal to render page block. Now Apex command button. Re-render. Then I have Apex page block section item. Apex command button. Apex page block section item. Apex value equal to amount. Then we have next amount years. Then we have rate. Amount years rate. Then finally we have interest. This is how we have created. The basic structure I created. Calculate, reset, amount, years, rate, interest. Right? So basic Apex class, which has a couple of variables, two methods, which we are giving. One method will calculate, other method will reset. How we are trying to use the data? We got here page block buttons, command button. Then we had a page block section item, output label, input text. Page block section item, output label, input text. We had a couple of elements here. When we go for a preview, this is the structure what we received. I'm trying to create. Then what was that? I have not given ID. Now why it is refreshing? I told refresh only PV, but I have not given the PV. Okay, no issue. You got the corresponding interest or reset the value. I hope you are clear with this format. Clear? I hope you are clear. Now here we have seen a couple of attributes in the input text where I given required equal to true. Now I told required equal to. When I said required equal to true, calculate. Now what was this? calculate, it is going to throw error operation. What is that? Record equal to true. So it is not giving any null or any other. It has to be an error message. If you don't give record equal to true, save it, go back, click on calculate. Now what are you getting here? But in the previous case, why you not received that? Record equal to true. When it told if you don't enter the value, don't submit the form. Don't submit the form. You have to handle that error. We have not written the program to handle the error, but what is that? Previous case, it is not submitting the form because the field is required. Without giving the value, if you submit the form, don't submit the form. Without giving the value, if you submit the form, don't submit the form. I hope I'm clear. That one attribute which we didn't see in the input element, which is only theoretical property, but we didn't see them in output. I hope I'm clear with this format, right? So basically, you understood how to refer the class from the VF page, right? Am I clear? Buttons, classes. Now we will try to understand how to navigate from one page to another page. When I click on a button, it has to take me to another page. Or we already seen giving some error message, right? Now I want to give some error messages. How to print the error messages? Now if the name is not entered, I want to print boss name is a required field. If amount is not entered, boss amount is a required field. So how to generate that errors? How to generate that errors? So we'll try to understanding the printing of error messages and page references. Let us look at the next example. First we'll start with error messages, validation. Trying to apply custom validation. First. Understand the first one. We have apex pages dot. So, or else we can say message is the class. It is a predefined apex class. Who has created this apex class? Salesforce has already created this apex class. Second, this apex class is defined. This apex class is defined in the namespace of apex pages. This apex class is defined in the namespace of apex pages. Next, this is used to print messages on the throw validation errors on the page. So when you say messages, it is going to have a couple of things. Syntax. Apex page dot ch. Type of message and error. The type. There is a different type of message. What are the different types of messages we have? So let me give you the type of message can be. It can be error message. It can error. It can be info. It can be confirmation message. It can be warning. There are different types of messages what we have. So let us see how to create this. Look at the format. Public apex messages. Apex page dot message page. Severity. When you say severity, they'll ask you. Severity is error. Now apex page dot First, we'll see what type of message can be printed. Message 2. Security. Warning. Security. What I'm doing here, fx page dot add we created a fx page, add the message. So what was this? This is to add the messages. Fx page dot add whatever the message you created, add the message to fx page. Create the message, add them to page. Create the message and add them to page. We created a messages, message 1, message 2, message 3. What is that? First one is error, warning, another one is info, confirmation. Like that we can create multiple messages and add all these messages to page. When you say add the message to page, that message will be printed on the page. Will be printed on the page from where you call this. How we print it? So I'm giving it. Look at the format fx page. When you say page messages, whatever the page messages we added there, those messages are printed here. There I'm adding add message, fx pages dot add message. Whatever the messages I added on the fx page there, those will be printed here. So let us go for preview. What happened? You got here. Error warning. So what was the other issue here? Fx page dot severity info I gave twice. By reading only 3 messages. Any spell mistake in a way? This is info. Right. So what is that? So this is the message. Now as per your requirement, you have to decide what message you want. Now I told MOD is not entered, warning message, error message. MOD is a must field. Alright. Age cannot be less than 20, warning boss. Age cannot be less than 20. Now what is that? As per your business logic, you just understand what message you want to print on the top of the page. So if you want to print any error messages, what we are using, because the format, fx page dot message. Now severity. What is severity? This is also one of the predefined enum. It contains the values. can say value, error, warning, info, confirm. Right. This is how we are giving it. Right, boss? Severity. Now what I am doing, whatever the messages you have created, you are supposed to add the message to pages. We have this method is used. Apex page. Right. This is a predefined method in the Apex pages class. Basically, create the messages, add the messages to the page. Now when you load the page, the corresponding data will be printed. What is this Apex pages? What was this Apex pages? It will print all the messages added to the page. I hope I am clear. People are clear? Any query on this element? Any query? Now we can try out some examples on this. What was an example? Create some page. If amount is not entered, throw error message. If yes are not entered, throw error message. Ready is not entered, throw error message. I want to apply some error messages. So what I can do here? Your previous example. Here I am checking. What was that? If amount equal to null. Why I am taking null? If you don't enter any value, default value is null. Effect page dot change. Maybe it's not add. I told if amount is null, throw error message. Go back to the VF page. Apex page messages. Go for a preview. Apex page messages. There was amount calculated. There is something bug from my end. Else it should be correct. Right, go back and click on this calculate. Still the same. So what was the bug here, boss? Re-render. Exactly. So what was the issue? I gave re-render because the form is not getting refreshed. There was an error, but form is not getting refreshed. That's the reason. The error is not getting not saved. Come back to this page. So look at the format. Action equal to reset. Re-render PB. When you re-render PB, page messages. I gave apex page dot add message. What is the message? Messages dot severity dot error is not equal to null. Well, it should be null, right? There's nothing wrong with the code. Amount equal to null. Yes, amount is null. The way it is coming to else. So let me do it vice versa. You need default values. amount cannot be null. But decimal value is supposed to be null here. We'll find out. So what was this bug here? Basically, I told if amount is greater than 0, I have taken. So I have given a condition on null. The default value is what? What is the default value of amount? It should be null, right? So I have taken. We're getting null. We are not assigned the value, right? Somehow why we're getting some error? Okay. Fine. Basically what I told, if amount is greater than 0, calculate the value, otherwise print the error message. So like this you can apply validation rules, custom validation rules and print your own messages by using what? Effect dot message. Effect dot message. I hope I'm clear. That's all from my end for the day. Continue in the next section.